What a great pleasure to welcome to What's Next Andre Vermeulen, who's the Director for Human Capital, and he's the leader for Deloitte Consulting across Africa in this regard. Andre, really good to see you. How are you doing?
I've been very good, Aki. It's great to see you again. Great to catch up. Very interesting time for us to have this chat. So thanks for making the time.
It's a great pleasure. You've got an interesting title. What is your day-to-day activity? If I had to meet you in the lift and say, Andre, what do you do at Deloitte? How would you describe your job?
Aki, there's no one day that's the same, but let me give it a go. I think having brought up in technology all my life, as you know, I've been involved in all sorts of technology deployments and the likes. But the last few years, I've been focusing on the human psychology about behavioral adoption and adaptation to all of these fun things that's happening in the tech world. So at Deloitte, I'm still very involved in some technology deployments, but I lead a consulting business that's more focusing on the life, the purposeful work, change and org design, learning, all of these things that goes side by side to effective
wonderful
technology. Yeah.
Well, we talk about change, and I'm looking forward to our discussion because there's certainly lots of change happening around us as we speak right now. Every organization is shifting, and I don't think you and I have quite seen this shift happening like this in every industry. It's not just one industry that's impacted, it's right across the board. And Deloitte has been compiling its global human capital trends report for quite a few years now. I think it's year 18 or 19, if I'm not mistaken. And it's such an important report because it really highlights some important things that are happening in the world of business. Why is this an important report for Deloitte to continue publishing?
Aki, thanks for that. I think the report is for us, it's a critical guide to organizations to navigate those tipping points. Right? For me, it's there's no longer inaction or the option of just seeing what happens, right? The life is just working way too fast. So what we're trying to do is to provide a data-driven scientific approach that helps organizations move beyond mere survival to new value and long-term aspirations and results. Ultimately, we want to make sure that the individuals that we all are, right, leave work with a better health, skills, and a sense of purpose. So this is a good and honest report, and has been for all of those 18 years that you've mentioned, purely because all of our peers will evaluate their own progress against this trend. And what we've seen with all these big hype cycles is that there's a big expectation and a low effective result. And we'll talk a bit about that in the interview. But the same is happening here. There's going to be a fast learning curve. But yeah, great report, and it captures all of the things that organizations are grappling with.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to our chat. It's almost like the zeitgeist, the pulse of an organization, as you can say it. I mean, there's different ways of describing it, but it's absolutely fascinating. And one of the key findings that I saw in the report of this year's report is that business leaders are increasingly focused on ensuring speed and adaptability are at the forefront of their business strategy. Because things are moving so fast, what is driving this trend? I imagine that digitization and AI have a great role to play in this. What are you seeing?
Yeah, so Aki, I mean, you alluded to it early on, is that for me, and the report illustrates this, is that the compression of the S-curves are just getting so much closer to each other. So instead of a long sort of plateau and then a fast uptake and a plateau at the end, we see shorter cycles of S-curves compressing into making use of technology and making sure organizations adapt accordingly. Because if you look at, what we see now is that organizations are starting to replace long-term plans as a result of these mini S-curve compressions into a sense, an experimental, adapt real-time approach instead of having very long-term plans. The plateaus arrive much sooner, as we've seen and see, and they all are looking for that fast and nimble adaptation to this and prioritizing real-time orchestrations instead of just traditional scale. And we'll talk a bit about that when we zoom into that.
So what's very clear to me is that AI is becoming a real core part of daily life. I mean, every organization
Absolutely.
is talking about it as part of its strategic, core. This is what's going to differentiate us. What does the report say? And I guess it's almost like a fine line, because as humans, we're afraid of change. As humans, we hear about AI is coming to take my job. AI is going to replace me. AI is doing things better than me as a human being. But it's actually not quite the case. It's almost like AI is augmenting us. It's making us better workers. But that mind shift hasn't quite landed yet for many organizations. So what does the report say about humans and machines and how we can work together effectively? Because in essence, Andre, we've been doing it for decades, right?
Absolutely. So, Aki, what is interesting about this, there's a whole section on the machine-human relationship, right? And I think that's makes for fascinating reading. So the first thing is, last year we spoke about the whole element of human plus machine, right? This report speaks about human times machine. So it's an exponential augmentation instead of just a add-on or an augmentation, right? So what organizations are doing currently is they soft wiring some of these tools into the business. Now, what does that mean? It's meaning fostering a culture of experimentation, allowing freedom to experiment and play with these tools. And then some organizations are hardwiring some of these tools and making it redefine the jobs, roles, and workflows and decision making and escalation paths. So what's interesting is that some organizations are doing both, and some are just taking one approach, hardwiring and soft wiring. But very fascinating part of the report, which I want to just quote to get it right, is that 66% of organizations believe this is absolutely important to do both, soft wiring and hard wiring. But 57% of organizations are having efforts underway. But here's the fascinating part, that only 6% of organizations are making great progress. So again, the expectations are so big, but yet organizations are still experimenting heavily with these things. So only 6%, and the gap between those who recognize the importance and the trend are those who are making the real addressable difference is 60%. So there's still a big gap to be able to make this work. Now, what we see, and there's another really great part, and of course I'll send you a soft copy of the whole report. There's a few really good infographics, Aki, that can really go a long way to explain this process. But what organizations have realized is that there are many ways to implement human machine interactions. Okay, one at the top end has got high AI authority, and at the lower end, low AI authority. And let me explain. If you use AI as an automated or autonomous worker, it's got low AI authority because you just program an automated thing. If you start using AI as a doppelganger, which is just learning and mimicking routine jobs, similar to that, but it's clever and it's learning and behavior, it's slightly better, but not real advantage, but still useful. AI as a direct report. So now you've got a digital FTE, right, that reports into you that you can manage as you would a human. And then there's an AI assistant. There's AI as an interactive collaborator and thought partner. Now that is starting to influence your decision making. And AI as a coach, we've seen. And then ultimately AI as a boss. You report into some AI engine, right? So these are the various levels that I've loved. You'll see this in the report, and it's nicely graphically illustrated in terms of the quantum of where the authority lives and where it currently reside. Currently, I see more low AI authority than high, but there are cases emerging very fast, actually, as we speak.
So one of the big concerns about the rise of AI is that blurred line that it brings to facts and inaccuracies, because we know that AI does lie, and it's how you ask it, it's how you probe it, but it makes up things. I mean, you and I have seen it. I've seen it every day. You got to continually question it. But I guess it's like squeezing the juice out of an orange. To get the pure orange juice, you've got to squeeze harder, maybe. How does this impact people in the workplace when you've got AI that you know is not 100% accurate all the time?
Yeah, you nailed it, Aki. There's no real good answer yet to this problem, right? But I've seen a couple of really good ring-fenced AI engines that sort of address this. But the biggest issue that we see is the erosion of authenticity, right? This is a really important thing, that 95% of executives worry about the candidate's data accuracy. So if you provide a CV or whatever, how much of that is deep fake? How much of that is real? And how much of that is your own work? Then we've also seen the erosion of agency. So this is because AI can co-author work. It's difficult to to understand what is the real creative and new thought leadership, because AI can only look at the past and currently look at current data, right? So humans are really good in creative thoughts and adding, right? So how much of that is adding new or just reporting on the past or just co-authoring? And then we've got cognitive decline, which is a real big problem, the erosion of judgment, right? So over-reliance of AI can lead to work slop, which is a shallow, low-quality output, which is just easy to produce, but it doesn't really take you forward. And in fact, if you look at the curve of how AI give you the answers that it comes up with, it takes a 70% norm answer good and acceptable. Whereas if you want a competitive advantage, you want to play on the outer rim of that quantum, not necessarily in what everybody sees as the answer. Because this is where the human advantage is really, and this is the tagline of the report, is that to not use it is a no-no. I mean, that is just silly. But to use it in the right way and with orchestrating with human key capabilities, you'll get the competitive advantage. But without that, you'll be either stable stake or fall behind if you just don't adopt.
So there's been quite a bit of concern, Andre, that, I mentioned this earlier, that AI is going to take jobs, going to replace humans. Yes, it's going to happen. I mean, some industries are going to survive. I mean, that's the evolution of technology. It's
Correct.
not just AI that's done that. If you look at the Industrial Revolution, if you looked at previous revolutions, we've seen what that's resulted in. It's adding tremendous amount of automation, and it's making that workflow a lot smoother. But the question always comes up is, what role will humans have in the future of work, particularly when it comes to making those important decisions? And I think you touched on it earlier, that judgment is key, because AI is not able to make the same kind of judgment that has the same emotive decision-making that we have as human beings. So what's your take on this?
Yeah, so what I take, and the report is clearly saying that, is that organizations are not quite ready to give strategic choice and decisions to AI engines. I mean, for all the right reasons, right? As you said, because humans are good stewards of judgment, purpose and value, empathy, creativity, all of those type of things. But what we are seeing is that it's starting to augment decision making, add levels of authority that is acceptable within a trust boundary and framework, right, that organizations can trust and understand. So the ultimate stewards of judgments will always be the people. We can't send a bot or something to jail for bad decisions or judgment, but humans will always be kept accountable. So what organizations are really doing now is to find that happy medium and balance between trusted advisor and based on analytical data, right? To give you a real world example, Aki, you would know this, but Deloitte has been involved with the F1 McLaren team for many years now. And this year, I know the team is struggling a bit, but for the prior 3-4 years, we dominated the sport in terms of our ability to help them win races through pure analytical processing of large, complex data sets, right? And it's a It's actually, we're very proud of our work there. But one of the things that came out is that we do on average 9.3 billion scenarios for race day, right? The pit crew executes those decisions that's made in Woking, regardless of where they race worldwide, with hyper speed connections in. Now, in that example, you would think that if we do 9.3 billion scenarios, why don't the machine just make the call? It's still up to the race director to make the call. So all of the reports and all of the processing gets done, and fast computing, and our dashboards are made for decision making, not for reporting. And that decision then gets given to the most qualified person to make that call, like a tire change at a given point in time. But it's clear from the data what to do, but we still can't let the machine make that call. We still need somebody to get onto the radio and say, box, bring the car in, right? So that's just an example, right? There's also afterwards hot and cold debriefs where we simulate scenarios on different choices. And the role that a hot debrief has got in terms of bringing the emotion in from the race really is something that a computer can never do. People felt they were on the grid, they felt the heat, they felt the humidity, all of those things. And then a cold debrief we also do post-race day on a Wednesday when everything's calm, and we can unpack all of the data and all the decisions. But that's just an example of a high-speed, high-demand, quick decision-making. Still not a computer that makes that final call. There's still an element of human judgment that sits on top of that. But the bulk processing in absolute milliseconds are done for you. And the recommendation is clear. And maybe 9 times out of 10, we make the recommendation, but it's not quite, we can't be accountable unless we put a human voice and say, I back this. So that's just an example. I thought that would be a nice thing to do.
Yeah, no, it's a great example. I mean, I can't believe how many data sets you look at. It's extraordinary.
It's extraordinary.
The rapid evolution of AI and automation, as we've been talking about, and other technologies, when you talk to business, it's making businesses difficult to keep up with the pace at which it's moving at, right? Because every day there's a new change. Every day our competitors are doing something different. It's putting a lot of pressure on businesses to keep up to date with the pace. So
Correct.
How can businesses ensure that they stay relevant in the world that is constantly changing and shifting?
Aki, this is a big change topic, right, for organizations, one of which the modular functions, the traditional IT, HR, finance functions, right? It's starting to be really thought through differently, right? Because we need to deconstruct those traditional silos and start having far more interplay. So what are the organizations doing? They're looking at orchestrating, right, instead of silo and mission-based functions in the organization. So one of the examples is that dynamic orchestration is fluidly reconfiguring people, skills, and technologies around the outcomes that they want. And then adaptive learning, moving away from a top-down training module to an AI-enabled coaching. So you want to learn in flight and dynamically what you're doing. And then, of course, breaking down those silos in terms of the traditional functions of an organization. And it's captured in the report under the topic of orchestrating the advantage, right? And it's about not just giving the IT crew, co-pilot licenses, right? You've got to give co-pilot licenses for, if that's an example, to all of your functions. They will use it very differently if that is your tool of choice. But it's not just the technology. It's a human-centric, technology-supported approach which makes organizations move forward, right? And there's not one tool that can sort out from coach to boss to agent to helper, all of those things. We tend to see a lot of tools doing different things at different phases of that level of authority across the organizations.
So when you look at the report, and I mean, there is just so much in this report that really stands out for me. But for you personally, Andre, is there one takeaway that you want people to take away from this report? What really stood out for you? What would it be that you would say to people, hey, this is the one thing you put onto your radar. This is what stands out for me. What's yours?
I think for me is that the human advantage is emphasized for the first time. We had a lot of years now where technology took the forefront of change. For now, I can see the human advantage coming on top of that. Now that everybody's got the same set of tools and access to these tools, the organizations that's winning are the ones that's got the culture and the experimental mindset to adopt these things in the right capacity. And this is what we refer to as the human advantage. So it's human times machine, not human plus machine. So we don't think that the advantage no longer lives in technology alone, but it lives by choosing the right human advantage and the right balance between the two. And you've got to have the right people and mindset to adopt that and constantly evolve as well. So I would say in one sentence, Aki, it's the human advantage that is becoming an increasingly competitive advantage over companies that's not getting right. The percentages of effective organizations navigating this is low. There's not one part of the trend that organizations feel that they are winning more than 10% on. But yet everybody 70% plus believe this is the only way forward. But only 6 or 8% are making it work real. The only difference between those organizations is not access to tools, not cost of the tools, not the ability of the tools or cloud processing, as you know. It's the people that make it work. So again, we're coming back to how great this PC is and what we can do with this. And we will not have less jobs. We'll have more jobs as a result of this. But we'll amplify our ability in these organizations going forward. Very, very, very exciting time.
Oh, absolutely. Andre, listen, it's been such a pleasure talking to you and seeing you again. Thank you very much for your time and sharing those insights. You've left me thinking about a lot of things. Andre Vermeulen, who's the Director for Human Capital and the leader for Deloitte Consulting in Africa for this. Andre, thank you for your time. It's really much appreciated.
Fantastic, Aki. Always make time for you and all the best for you. And I'll send you a copy of the report. Happy reading.